Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:06, the 17th day of July, as we reflect on last night's show of unity and strength at the Republican Party convention last night in Milwaukee. Coming up at 7:35, one of the gentlemen showing that strength was Hung Kao, the nominee for Senate. His speech was phenomenal, and he'll be joining us. At 8:05, Mercedes Schlepp will give us her reflections firsthand in Milwaukee. And then at 8:35, Richard Anderson, chairman of the Republican Party in Virginia. I'm Larry O'Connor. That's Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Julie. We mentioned this earlier in the program, and we're now joined to flesh this out even more by Mark Paoletta. He, of course, is a senior fellow at the Center for Renewing America, and he co-edited the book Created Equal, Clarence Thomas, in his own words. He also worked, by the way, not just on Clarence Thomas's confirmation, but also on the film of that book, Created Equal. It's a great film. You need to get it. Clips of that film. I put out a clip on X the other day, Mark, and it went supernova viral because it was that great scene of Clarence Thomas squaring off with Joe Biden back in, 1991, I want to say. It's a great clip from the film, but it also sort of showed, considering some of the decisions that have just been handed down, including Justice Thomas's concurrent decision saying that Jack Smith shouldn't even be a special prosecutor because his appointment was unconstitutional. I mentioned that Clarence Thomas has been sitting in this town playing the long game when it comes to Joe Biden, and it's a great thing to watch these two gentlemen's trajectory and see what a great man Clarence Thomas is and what a mess of a human being Joe Biden is. And they're still, sadly, in terms of Joe Biden, they're both very much holding the levers of power right now. This is an epic, almost operatic storyline of these two individuals and the last 30 years.
Larry, and Julie, thanks for having me on. I completely agree with you. I love that clip. I think it's the one where Joe Biden is telling the American people they can't understand anything they're talking about. It's all
yes.
Justice Thomas.
This is really all about natural law. No one else understands, but you and I get it. Yes.
Yeah, it's and you're right. It's 33 years. Remember, Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the single most malevolent force on the Supreme Court in modern times. He destroyed the Supreme Court confirmation process, right? He did Robert Bork because he was caught with plagiarism. His wife even says this, caught with plagiarism, had to drop out of the presidential campaign in '87. And decided the way I get back with the left is to smear and destroy Robert Bork.
Yep.
Then he comes along in '91 and allows Anita Hill to lie repeatedly, has this hearing that Justice Thomas called a circus and a high-tech lynching. And here's the thing that's really despicable about that. Joe Biden never believed Anita Hill, ever. He let her go forward. And after those hearings were ended, he called Clarence Thomas and said, hey, keep your head up. You're a great guy. Don't let you get this down. Literally the night he was confirmed, I was there. He called Justice Thomas and told him that. So he's really just this awful human being. And now what you're seeing today with his latest proposal, right, is he hates the court. He hates an independent court. He's really triggered by Justice Thomas. You're right, Larry. They've been going at this for 33 years. And the person who's winning is Justice Thomas. On every single court case decision that Biden mentioned in his nationwide address was a Clarence Thomas decision or opinion over 30 years that had been in the minority and now is a majority opinion. He has brought the Supreme Court along to his view, the original's view of the Constitution.
That's right.
But what he wants to do, what he said yesterday in this news report, is that he wants to limit the court. That means he wants to control the court. He wants to control its decisions. And he talks about term limits. He talks about a binding ethics code. All of these things are you need a constitutional amendment to put term limits in. It's never going to go anywhere. And any kind of outside ethics code, enforceable ethics code, is not going to is unconstitutional and is not going to go anywhere. So he wants to undermine this court and attack this court.
Mark, in addition to the term limits and also the enforceable ethics code, he wants to expand the court, correct? He wants to add members. 15? Is that what is the number?
Julie, it's great. I'm trying to figure this out. What the Washington Post said, it was term limits, which would need legislation. That's obviously wrong. So I don't know what the Washington Post is talking about. I think what they're talking about is this idea where you add justices little by little, and then there's this crazy White House legislation where the latest 9 justices are the only ones who are allowed to hear a case. Okay, so I think that's sort of court packing. Right, but it's interfering in the court's operation. I also think that's unconstitutional. Yeah. But it's all of these efforts. The bottom line is they don't like an independent Supreme Court. They want to control the Supreme Court. They've controlled it essentially. Right, it's been a reliable ally for 60 years. And only in the past few years with the Trump appointment has it become an originalist court that has driven the left crazy.
Mark Paoletta is our guest. Yeah, you're right. And I just want to, as people are plugged in on this or get to be plugged in on it, this was leaked to the Washington Post, and it had to do with a phone call that President Biden had with progressive caucus members where he said, I'm going to do this and I'm going to need your help. Mm-hmm. Now, it seems to me that any proposal like this, you tell me, Mark, is it good enough for the executive to propose it and legislative branch ratify it, or isn't this the sort of thing that what they're proposing that would require some sort of amendment to the Constitution?
100%. Like I said, the term limits. The Constitution literally says justice is appointed for good behavior, which means life. So, and that the founders thought about that and wanted justices to have a life appointment. Right. So, at a minimum, would need a constitutional amendment. I think that there are these efforts to try and get around getting an amendment by having this staggered sort of court packing plan and limiting who could sit on cases. But my understanding, my view is that's completely unconstitutional too. So it would all have to go up for constitutional amendments, which will never really go anywhere.
In our final moments here, Mark, sort of explain to people why this is it's so contrary to our constitutional republic. These are the people who claim that Donald Trump and Republicans and conservatives are fascists and authoritarians, and if Trump wins this November, it'll be the last election we have and our democracy is dead. They are, as usual, doing exactly what they're claiming we are doing. This is, in fact, an authoritarian move to wrestle constitutional control from a co-equal branch and absorb it into their control.
That's 100%, Larry. They want to control the Supreme Court. They look. Joe Biden attacked Justice Thomas and Alito by name. That has never happened in modern times. There's no other president who's ever attacked justices by name. There's no president who's held a nationwide press conference to attack the Supreme Court. These are norm-breaking, dangerous, disturbing things that Joe Biden is doing to the Supreme Court, and we see the violence, the assassination attempts against the justices. It's authoritarian, it's thuggish, it is an intolerance for anything that does not agree with you, and they want to destroy the Supreme Court because it's an independent institution, and stopping all of these crazy things that Joe Biden tries to do, and the way the Supreme Court the Washington Post describes it, of shutting down Biden's forgiveness of student loans. That's unconstitutional. It doesn't. He doesn't have that power. But that's the thing he does not like, and he basically says, "I want to pack the court."
Yeah, they don't like the decisions that judiciary has made, and so therefore they want to burn it down.
Yep.
That's what they do. It's how the left gets their power, and it needs to be fought at every measure, and why we're not hearing more from elected officials in Congress, because this undermines the legislative branch too. And if those so-called Republican leaders who have been on Capitol Hill for decades actually care about that, they should be the loudest voices, and I certainly hope they will be. We got to leave it there. Mark Paoletta, you do the Lord's work. I appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Julie.
It's the Center for Renewing America. And if you like what you see from Mark, just watch that film, Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words. It's a great documentary, and you'll get to know Clarence Thomas like everyone should get to know him. 7:15 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives, Jamie Whitten, Julie. We've got Jamie Whitten. She's in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center. Oh, my God.
WMAL. Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Long Windows. We do window replacement the right way, the long way. Visit longwindows.com.
Novec.
Power you can count on.
A most consequential week in American history. Stay with WMAL, making sense of the news.
If you're a Virginia Republican, you should hold your head high with pride today as your nominee for the U.S. Senate, the highest profile Republican running for statewide office in Virginia this year, Hung Kao, took the stage at the Republican National Convention and by all measures absolutely knocked it out of the park. It's amazing watching social media, as we've known Hung Kao for several years now, from his run for Virginia 10 in 22 and now securing the nomination for Senate. Watching people across social media reacting to his 5-minute speech saying, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And where do I sign up? Take a listen to a little bit of Hung Kao last night in Milwaukee.
I saw combat in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Somalia. I retired as captain of the United States Navy, and now I stand before you as a Republican nominee for the United States Senate in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Only in America, ladies and gentlemen, only in America. But we're losing our country. Under Joe Biden, millions of illegal aliens flood our borders. They fly Hamas flags on our campuses, and they shout death to America. As an immigrant to this great country, let me be very clear to everyone who comes here. Don't ask for the American dream if you're not willing to obey the American laws and embrace the American culture.
Can I tell you something? That message, if you want, don't ask for the American dream if you're not willing to obey the American laws and embrace the American culture. Liberals found that objectionable.
Yes.
That is contrary to their understanding and belief.
That would have been boilerplate Democrat talking points,
Obama probably said something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
just
when
10 years ago.
When you hear the right has just gone extreme, think about that.
Yeah.
The left has been overtaken by radicals that they don't agree with. That common sense comment.
Yeah. By the way, we've heard a lot from Hung Kao. A lot of the things he said, oh yeah, I've heard this, because he's added something to his speech.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And I want you to hear it because this is so good.
I'm running against Hillary's running mate, Senator Tim Kaine. Kaine is a weak man in a dangerous world. We only have one thing in common. The American taxpayer signed our paychecks for 30 years. Except Kaine is a career politician with millions of dollars to show for it. I've been a warrior with scars to prove it, and I'm damn proud of it.
We have heard the scars line, but Tim Kaine is a weak man in a dangerous world, and it so perfectly defines who Tim Kaine is. The weakness, everything about him is weakness.
I mean, and I'll just say, from a parent who was struggling during COVID, that man said nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing during COVID, nothing to help parents, nothing to in any way sympathize with parents. It's bigger than that. I get that. I'm just saying that resonated with me. It brought me right back to COVID.
It's not bigger than that. It literally is at every measure. Tim Kaine has stuck up for his party and the elite few who keep him rich and in power. He is weak for the rest of us at every turn. Nikki Haley was a late addition after the assassination attempt, a beautiful move on both sides of the equation here, who figured out things are bigger than our petty differences. And she delivered a very good speech, I have to say.
I'll start by making one thing perfectly clear. Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the former spokesperson at the White House and now governor of Arkansas.
Really quickly,
Sarah I was going to move on from...
sorry, but Sarah Huckabee Sanders... No. It's funny. She was someone who was talked about as vice president. I mean, now this conversation is over now, but It's funny. I was thinking about how she would have been a great VP candidate.
Well, she definitely has a political future beyond just being the governor of Arkansas, and she delivered a great speech at a great moment.
President Trump is a leader. And he's the leader our country needs. And if ever there was a doubt, earlier this week, we saw just how tough, resilient, courageous, and daring this man is, and we can't get him back in the White House fast enough.
She also had one line, I don't have time for it, but she said she remembered bringing your child to work week when she brought her toddler to work at the White House and was reflecting on it. And then she said, sort of like how Jill brings Joe to work every day. It's a really good line. A great night at the convention. And Hung Kao, the man you just heard, he'll be joining us coming up at 7:35. Right now it's 7.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
I'm running against Hillary's running mate, Senator Tim Kaine. Kaine is a weak man in a dangerous world.
I need that on a bumper sticker, a T-shirt, a billboard. Tim Kaine is a weak man in a dangerous world. That was Hung Kao, the Republican nominee for Senate last night, making his international primetime debut at the Republican National Convention. And he joins us now. Hung Kao, I mean, we've known you for a while. It was great to see the reaction from people around this country finally getting to see Hung Kao on that stage. And the reaction was, wow, who is this guy and where do I sign up? Well done last night.
Thank you so much, Larry. And good morning to you too, Julie.
Good morning.
So what was it like there? I got to ask you. I mean, this is you've come a long way, Mr. Kao, and there you were standing on that stage at the Republican convention, and not only making the case for the Republican ticket, but you came close to guaranteeing that you will win this election and send Tim Kaine into his week retirement.
No, thank you so much. The energy of the crowd was just insane. I mean, just walking out there is a huge stage, and just looking at all those faces. They heard from Virginia this week. I mean, first with Governor Youngkin, and then now last night with me. They're like, oh gosh, Virginia is in play.
Hung, you made so many. I'm looking over your speech. We have the transcript here, and there are so many memorable lines. But for me, the line that Tim Kaine is a weak man in dangerous times was so appropriate, and it says everything you need to know about Tim Kaine. Tell us about writing that speech and that line, and expand on that a little bit more about how absent and silent Tim Kaine has been over the last few years, and how his biggest goal is to serve the Democrat Party, not really serve the people of Virginia. Tell us about writing that line.
No, you're absolutely right, Julie. I mean, that's what we're trying to capture, is the fact that where's Tim Kaine been? Where's he been when COVID happened and children are trying to catch up from these years of missing school? And where was he when businesses were being shut down, businesses that were handed down from, generation to generation, and people are struggling to get food on the table and pump gas and buy a house? Where was Tim Kaine? Where's Tim Kaine when, we lost Afghanistan? Where's Tim Kaine now when the world is walking all over us?
Hung, how's it looking right now? We're looking at the polls, and it seems that you're neck and neck with men right now in the Commonwealth of Virginia. This is based on a latest poll from Virginia Commonwealth Wilder School. But with women, Tim Kaine is winning by 20 points with women, and that really does seem to be the difference in this race as of now. First of all, does your polling back that up as well? And what message do you have for female voters that might be hesitant to get off the Tim Kaine bus?
Well, first of all, Tim Kaine has been campaigning and touting his own accolade for 30 years using the taxpayers' dollar, right? And he's going around this tour now of like, hey, look at me, patting himself on the back. And, we're exactly where we know we are right now, and we knew we have a lot of work to do. But for everybody else, let's say this, the same people that got us into this mess are trying to convince us that they can get us out. I mean, just ludicrous. I mean, he's been in Senate for 12 years, and he's not got nothing to show for it. Now he's like, oh, no, I can get us out. No, you're the one that voted for the Inflation Reduction Act. You're the one that voted for all these crazy bills that is hurting our country. So, America needs a change right now.
Do you think it is an effective message to go to the women of Virginia and say, listen, you may like Tim Kaine, he may have a nice, gentle smile on his face, but he abandoned you when you wanted your children back in school.
Yep.
He abandoned you when you wanted your kids to be able to take that mask off their face. He has abandoned you when you stand up and say, no, my children shouldn't be subjected to pornography in the schools and in their school libraries.
He tells you you're imagining thing when crime is spiking.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I would think those messages resonate with women, Hung.
That's exactly it. And that's why our motto is just that, hey, I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight for you, not for my special interests. It's not for Washington, D.C. establishment. It's not for, the Democratic Party. I'm going to fight for you. That's what I've done my entire career, and I'm not going to stop now.
Is there a debate scheduled yet between you and the senator?
I think we're working around it. I mean, I know the teams are working hard. It's just I know Tim Kaine came out and says, we're going to do this, this, and this. Like, hey, I don't answer you, dude. Look, Mr. Magoo, I'm not going to answer to your demands here.
Mr.
We come to...
That's really good. Well, California, Governor Newsom just signed a bill really taking away parents' rights. Children can now legitimately be taken from their parents in California. Virginia often goes the way of California. Your parent rights agenda is so important to parents right now. And we know there are Virginia Democrats who want to do exactly that. Yeah. Do you have a reaction to that California bill?
I mean, everything that comes out of California is just ridiculous, right? The EV mandates that Governor Youngkin is now able to block. And then also now the school things. I mean, it's just, look, stay away from my family and stay away from my kids. That's all we want, right? Get away from my business, but definitely stay away from my kids. And that's the resonating message. And that's what got Glenn Youngkin elected. And that's what's going to get us elected as well. Just stay away from my business. Leave us alone.
Yeah.
The website is hungforva.com, hungforva.com. I have a sense that the traffic is pretty high there after that appearance last night on the stage in Milwaukee, Hung Cow. Congratulations. Well done. Now get back here and get to work. You got to do rallies. You got to go door to door. You got to work 10 times harder than Tim Kaine because, well, he's Tim Kaine, right? So I know you're going to do it. I know you're up for it. Thanks, man.
Well
Appreciate
done.
Good
well
talking
done.
Have a great day.
You bet.
Bye.
Kaine is a weak man in a dangerous world.
Yes, I might get that tattooed temporarily. Henna. I want to reiterate that right now, as we speak, Democrats are plotting, they're strategizing, they're trying to figure out how to get rid of Joe Biden and at the same time bypass Kamala Harris because they feel like they're doomed right now. They are all conniving and, the knives out. Wait, is it going to be Gretchen Whitmer? Is it going to be Gavin Newsom? Is it going to be Hillary? Is it going to be Michelle Obama? They're all lobbying. They're all vying. They're all angling. They are in disarray. But last night in Milwaukee, you talk about a unified Republican Party, positive, upbeat,
cheerful, yes,
and a leader in the nominee, President Donald Trump, who has this new air of gratitude and almost serenity on his countenance. When you cut to every time they cut to him, he has this sort of this quiet, stoic determination on his face. That bullet changed things. And I mentioned before, and we talked about the fact that Nikki Haley, after the assassination attempt, she was not scheduled to speak at this convention, but they reached out and they made it happen, and she gave a very unifying, great message yesterday. And then there's Ron DeSantis. Now, they've already sort of mended. Ron DeSantis did the right thing. After he lost in Iowa, he pulled out very quickly before the New Hampshire primary and immediately threw his support to Donald Trump. And honestly, it was probably the ugliest between the two of them during the primary process, the Ron DeSanctimonious stuff. The DeSantis people were pretty rough on Trump people in social media. And
they fought back. Yep.
And it got ugly. It got rough. It seemed like it would not mend. Well, here was Ron DeSantis last night.
The current president of the United States lacks the capability to discharge the duties of his office. Our enemies do not confine their designs to between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. We need a commander-in-chief who can lead 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. America cannot afford 4 more years of a weekend at Bernie's presidency.
And let me tell you, they cut to Trump, and Trump liked that line a lot.
That's great.
It was a great moment. And again, unifying. Nikki Haley also, by the way, emphasized that point and repeated a line that she was saying quite a bit during the primaries, which is a vote for Joe Biden is really a vote for Kamala Harris, because everybody knows that she will be president.
Absolutely.
The most powerful moment last night, though, went to a non-politician. They had several what they called everyday Americans go up and speak about the crime that has ravaged their families and their lives, thanks to Democrats in major cities as prosecutors, as we know right here in Fairfax County and in Alexandria and in Washington, D.C. And the speech of the night actually goes to this woman, Madeleine Brame. She lost her son, and Alvin Bragg, the DA in Manhattan, who we all know because he prosecuted Donald Trump, he chose to let her son's murderers off scot-free.
Yeah, roaming the city.
I saw combat in Iraq.
That was Hung Kao. This is Madeleine Brame.
Alvin Bragg charged her with assault with a shoe. And another one was sentenced to 7 years. I later learned that Alvin Bragg often dismisses and reduces dangerous criminals. He wants to clear the jails and return violent felons onto our streets every day. The injustice was devastating for me and my family. I don't want anyone else to experience the senseless pain that many other victims across this United States of America have to live with every day. So I decided to use the voice that God gave me to be the voice for the voiceless across America.
Her son, who was murdered, by the way, is an Army veteran and served in Afghanistan and then was murdered in cold blood. She went on to say that she has decided as a Democrat to support Donald Trump and Republicans, and she implored others to do the same to end this madness.
And that is so. It is the Democrats that are doing this to our country. Yeah. It is the Democrats who have caused such crime upticks. Have our border criminals are coming across every single day. More Democrats need to reconsider. Do what Amber Rose did.
Yeah.
Do the research and reconsider your party.
A great speech, and you.